Baldurs Gate 3 is an incredible achievement, artistically with its diverse landscapes, writing, storytelling, interesting characters, depth, customization, like I think we've honestly never seen before, but a vision like this unfortunately has bugs and the occasional issue that you need to be aware of. Let me know any questions you have about the full game in the comments down below and I'll try and get back to you. So just for your awareness, I'm going to avoid showing as little of Act 2 and U stuff as possible because I think it's best that you experience it on your own, but it's hard to sort of talk about certain things without showing some things, but no story beats here. It might just be like some environmental things or maybe some characters may appear in a different location compared to what you may expect in the early access, but I will be avoiding spoilers as much as possible. We were given access to the game about 4 days early, and in those 4 days, I have played over 30 hours of the game, and I've in Act 2 currently on my main, which is a Dragonborn Paladin. I think I'm level 7 or 8, and I'm also got a Dark Urge playthrough as a Githyanki monk going as well, which is still in Act 1. So I'm essentially playing like a good Paladin and a very, very evil Dark Urge as my sort of 2 playthroughs that I'm sort of running through at the moment. And I wanted to do that to try and get a wide breadth of the spectrum in terms of the different decisions and things that can happen. I'll also say here that these impressions, definitely not for review, but these impressions are a little bit unscripted. Like I've essentially just made notes and I'm just going to like talk off the cuff because I want to get back to playing the game. I'm not going to lie, but booting up the game, I was pretty certain that I was just going to steamroll through Act 1. Like I've played over 100 hours of the early access. I've done this a million times and I just wanted to like, book it straight to the new content. But the first thing I noticed was like, the tutorial's different. It's, it's the same. It's very similar to what we've come to enjoy, but it's a little bit shorter and sort of sticks to the nitty gritty of what you need to know and sort of get through from a storytelling aspect, which is definitely welcome as we've all done the tutorial a million times. And then there are the other changes, like the big ones that everyone knows about, right? Obviously, Karlach as an introduction to either a companion or origin character, depending on your choices. And then Will is also been rewritten. His new voice actor actually sounds very similar to the old one. Like I barely notice a difference, but I won't spoil anything about his new story, but it goes in some interesting places and I really have enjoyed where I'm up to in his story at the moment. But overall, there are actually a lot of new things, and some of that comes from having these new options in terms of classes and races or something like the Dark Urge, but also in that having Karlach around all the way through Act 1 and being able to participate in her story and different things that you'll find throughout the world will just make you think about things differently. I'm being intentionally vague about Karlach's story here, but she is an incredible companion. Like I am playing obviously as my good Paladin, and being that she is a bit more of a good themed character, I've had her with me throughout most of the campaign. And not only is the Barbarian class fantastic, her story and just her voice actor and...
Oh, come on. You don't mean that. Yes.
Her general mannerisms and stuff are just incredible. Like I think she's my favorite companion at this point. Like maybe that's just, recency bias because we've all had, the other companions since the start of early access, but I've really enjoyed her story and sort of engaging with her as a character. But I really did struggle with trying to smash through Act 1, trying to get to Act 2, but then also making sure I haven't missed anything that's new. And there is new things to discover in Act 1, so I'll definitely just say that and leave that to you to discover yourself. But generally with the full game, right, obviously we get Acts 2 and 3, but you've got these new additions like the Monk class, which is a ton of fun. Like Flurry of Blows is actually so strong. And the Dark Urge Origin as well, which is extremely dark, and where I'm up to as the Dark Urge, I've definitely got a long way to go, but I'm trying to lean into the violent aspects of him, and I won't show anything because again, I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible, but choosing the Dark Urge will lock you into some, not decisions, but it definitely changes the way certain scenes may play out, or essentially what's happening with your character as things around you may be playing out a certain way and your character's just too busy thinking about tearing people's arms off or, dreaming about blood, like it's interesting, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. But the big difference that I found overall, other than these additions and the role-playing side of things, was the difficulty, because we now have these difficulty modes. So you've got a story difficulty, the general balanced mode, which I think is the most closest to the early access, and then tactician, which is like your hard difficulty. I have mostly been playing on balanced, and I did actually find that the difficulty in the full version is harder, even in the original encounters from the early access, but especially once you hit Act 2, there is a massive difficulty spike there that I think people need to be aware of. And it's not necessarily just in certain encounters, it's the way that Act 2 is presented, and there's a lot more environmental things happening, and the game sort of assumes that you have a lot more inbuilt knowledge because you've made it to Act 2, and there's a couple of things that are almost like skill checks. As soon as you enter Act 2, it's like, hey guys, just make sure that you're ready for this, and it will sort of present you with some very difficult encounters very quickly, but it's just worth sort of pointing out. The sandbox in this game is the widest and deepest sandbox I think I've ever experienced. Now, all RPGs try to have, well, most RPGs, let's say, try to have some sort of choice and consequence to your role that you are playing. But in Baldurs Gate 3, that choice and consequence is presented to you consistently, and there is a number of choices, like little things that you may not even remember making, especially I didn't, but that happened a little bit later, or characters return later, and I'm honestly blown away by just how much this game remembers the choices that I've made and how that then impacts different decisions. It's also so interesting that Baldur's Gate 3 really invites you to fail, whether that be skill checks and, maybe you just fail a persuasion check and then an enemy just decides to attack you, or maybe you fail an encounter, like a very important story beat. You might fail something and the game just progresses. As long as your characters don't die, the game world and the game expects you to have either failed or passed, or something has happened there, and it just progresses. Like, that's just an element to the story now. And not only is that so rare, that there is just such a wide breadth of options that can happen to your character and around your character, but that the game world expects me to potentially do these various things. Like, I am so shocked at just I'll give you a specific example, right, that I don't think is a spoiler. I was talking to an ox. Okay, that's just a normal thing you do in this game, and this ox seemed odd. My character passed I think it was a nature or survival check, and was like, this ox is funny. And so I talked to the ox and I was like, hey, you're a bit weird. And he was like, nah, I'm fine. What are you talking about? And then I failed the actual insight checks or whatever to learn more about the ox or persuade him into telling me more about him. And then I ran into that ox again later down the story, and I managed to convince him to tell me who he was, and I won't spoil who he was, but a fight ensued and I beat the ox. And then the characters that were just around in that area, just NPCs, actually reacted to that specific outcome. They had lines recorded for them to engage with that specific random story beat that maybe those characters weren't even around at that time, right? They didn't have to be there, but they had lines to interact with that specific thing. Just that level of detail is so random. This wasn't even a quest. This was just an ox that I ran into, and then I ran into them again later. And I'm blown away by just how deep some of these decisions and things can happen are. But I hope that's not too much of a spoiler, because it's so hard to talk about the complexities and the things that's most intriguing about this game without talking about any spoilers. Now, bugs is definitely something that you may need to be aware of. So I had a number of issues initially, but then eventually they've sort of resolved, and they have been patching the game basically every day that we've had access to the game, and I'm sure they will continue to as well. The main thing that I will mention as a big caveat to you guys is they did put out a blog post for this, but make sure you have uninstalled the early access, as I had so many issues installing the game on my ROG Ally with the early access already installed. It just would not install. It would fully install, then it would delete itself. It was a big hassle. But also the save issue. So first things I would do when you boot up the game, or with the early access or otherwise, is delete all of your early access saves and turn off the cross save cloud save option in the options menu, because what happens is if your cloud saves are full or it doesn't actually upload, which happened to me multiple times, you cannot save while the cloud save is syncing. So on multiple occasions, I was just playing the game normally, and then that cloud save would bug out and I would lose progress because I can't save over it. And you can't even access repurpose your saves to delete cloud saves at that point because you just can't do anything. So you're sort of stuck there. I did also have a couple of other weird bugs, like some UI issues where the UI would just disappear, or some like weird combat niggles where I just had to like quick save and then reload because like a turn wasn't initiating. I've had a couple of dialogue bugs where like a line played twice. One example comes to mind where I told a lady that I fought someone she knew, and I specifically didn't kill them, like I kept them alive, and I told her that I fought them but they're still alive because, you know, I'm a good boy paladin, and she was like hysterical saying that I'd like killed the only people she cares about and blah blah blah. But like that was just obviously like the wrong dialogue playing, so just like minor bugs like that. But overall though, considering the amount of choice and stuff that's in this game, where I'm at right now, it runs extremely well in terms of its performance. It has always throughout the early access, and overall, like my experience with bugs, other than the cloud save issue, hasn't been that bad. It's so easy to just like quick save and then quick load. Obviously you can't do that with a save related bug, but your mileage definitely may vary because you will make different choices to me, you will play a different character to me, and who knows what Act 3 is like in terms of bugs, but I will definitely talk about that in my full review once we get there. The last thing I want to briefly touch on is itemization. There is so much gear in this game for all walks of life, even class specific gear, like race specific gear, specific subclass gear. There is so much gear and it's all really cool, and I cannot wait to make multiple playthroughs to try every single piece of gear that there is in this game, because there is a lot of it. Generally though, this is the closest to a tabletop D&D role-playing game I think we will ever get. Like, this game is filled to the absolute brim, not only with engaging content, but content with consequences and just random events that can play out differently based on your decisions. It's absolutely insane, the amount of choice that is in this game. It's probably everything you think it is, I would say. Like, if you have played the early access, you've played Larian's games before, and you've got a lot of hype for this game, my expectation is that this is everything that most people think it is, and it's definitely what I thought it was going to be, and I'm having an exceptional time, and I can't wait to go back and play it. So thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.